Hi and welcome to another Watch Geek video. Today I'll be doing a review and a tutorial of the Citizen AT8124, which is a solar atomic chronograph. But first I wanted to thank Silver Time Watch Store for supplying this watch, and if you want to check them out you can click on the link in the description. Also in the description you will find a table of content with time codes so you can jump to specific parts of the video. Now this watch, just like many other Citizen watches I held in my hands, is a perfect example of what I like to call a gift watch, meaning that it's a perfect watch to recommend to someone as a gift. Now you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? But here's what I mean. Since all my friends know I'm a watch nut, they usually come to me and ask me what watch can I recommend as a present for their loved ones, friends, or people they know. Now although I personally wear all sort of watches, including vintage mechanicals, Seiko 5s, and G-Shocks, I never recommend them. So why is that? Generally, I like to stay away from mechanicals unless the person receiving the watch is a watch person themselves, because regular people can find mechanical watches a bit annoying. They require maintenance, care, sometimes even a regular winding, and they're not really that accurate. Now, you might say, but what if I want to get a nicer mechanical like a Rolex or an Omega? That's fine, and that's excellent, as long as you and the person receiving the watch are aware and understand that these watches require regular maintenance that can cost quite a lot of money. Now, to a watch collector, it might not be a problem to give a couple $100 every now and then for a service, but some regular people are going to find that ridiculous. And this is why I like to stay clear from mechanicals. Also, I stay away from G-Shocks, not only because they're an acquired taste, but also I recommend getting a watch and nothing else but a bracelet when buying as a gift. Why is that? Well, bracelets are forever just like diamonds, while straps, whether they're leather or rubber, will fail. And on some people, they fail surprisingly fast. It all depends on their activity and their working environment. Now, a colleague of mine has gone through 3 sets of G-Shock straps in 6 years. That's one every 2 years. Now, I never had a G-Shock strap fail on me, so it really depends on a lot of factors. So just to play it safe, you always go for the bracelet. And also it's the cheapest way of getting a bracelet on the watch, because it's very easy and pretty cheap to get an aftermarket leather or rubber strap. However, if you want to go for a bracelet, it's very hard to find, and usually they're very expensive, especially if they're OM bracelets, meaning that they fit the case nicely. So for a gift watch, you want quartz for the accuracy and lack of maintenance, preferably a solar so you don't have to change the battery. You want a bracelet for longevity, and if possible, the watch should come with a sapphire, as it will make it look new for a longer time, as nothing makes a watch look old and worn out as a scratched up crystal, which is something sapphire should keep at a minimum. And if possible, that should all come at a reasonable price. And this watch is exactly that. So it comes with the Citizen H800 movement, which is, in my opinion, one of the best quartz movements you can get these days. It's self-adjusting, self-charging, has a chronograph function, a world time function, and a perpetual calendar. And it's a Citizen, meaning that even though it has all these complications and high technology, it's probably going to work reliably for ages. Now, the one problem that Citizen watches have is that they're sometimes complicated and hard to operate and initially set up. And if you want to see what I mean, you can check out my last week's video where I tried to adjust the Atomic Nighthawk, and I'll put a link right here in the corner. Now this watch is much more intuitive and easier to use. Now I'm not saying that you're going to be able to randomly click your way into adjusting this thing. You still have to know what you're doing. However, using it on a daily basis is a lot easier than on regular Citizen watches. So let's take Chronograph for example. Now on a regular Citizen watch, I mean complicated Citizen watch, you would have to pull the crown to the first click, then select the function you want, then close the crown, then you have to wait for the hands to get into their position, and then you can use the function. On this, using the chronograph is as simple as on a mechanical watch with only a single press of a button more. So you press the start button for the first time to prep the chrono, and then you just start it, stop it, reset it. And that's it. You just use the chronograph. Also changing the time zone on this watch. It doesn't require you going into menus and sub-menus and whatnots. No, you just pull the crown to the first click. You select the time zone you want by turning the crown, and you close the crown. And that's it. You just change the time zone on this watch. So as you can see, it's really simple to use as an everyday watch. So this watch comes with an excellent quartz movement that has the Citizen reliability, and it's also solar powered, meaning that just by avoiding storing it in complete darkness for long periods of time is going to make the battery last for a decade or more. It also comes on a wonderful bracelet that you would expect from Citizen at this price point, meaning that it has solid links, solid end links, and a beautifully machined clasp. Everything's finished nicely, there are no rough edges, and everything is smooth to the touch, and there's no squeakiness whatsoever. Also, the watch comes with sapphire crystal, meaning that the scratch resistance is very high. So as you can see, this watch really covers all the points that I said that make a perfect gift watch. Now the case is classically shaped, so there's nothing revolutionary here. However, that means that it's not going to look outdated in 5 or 10 years. Now when it comes to the size, the watch is on the larger side, so it's 43 millimeters in diameter, but it wears more like a 42 or 41. Although the lug to lug is 50, which is pretty long, and the case really curves downwards, so it's really not that bad. The thickness is 12 millimeters, which is a pretty standard these days, and the watch comes in at 180 grams, which gives it quite a heft. Also, the watch is 200-meter water resistant, meaning that you can use it for any water sport you want without worries. Now, the dial is a playful combination of blue and yellow, and it really looks great. I mean, that combination of colors. It has only one thing that bothers me, and that's the color coding, which I'm a huge fan of, and on this watch it's done incorrectly, meaning that these hands that are used for the chrono function are colored yellow, but also the 24-hour hand of the main time is colored yellow, which is wrong. Now there are other variations of this watch, so you have the black dial with blue and red subdial hands, but on that the color coding is also off. And then you have the orange and the green versions. Now these two have the color coding done correctly, but they come only on the straps, not on a bracelet. But that's something that bothers people like me. Regular people probably don't even notice this. And the last thing that I want to cover is the lume. Now the lume on this watch is excellent and lasts a long time. However, for some reason they decided to use lume only on the hands and not on the dial. So reading time in the dark with this watch is more an approximation of time rather than reading. Now I don't know why they went with that. I wish they lumed these wonderful big markers, or at least put some dots, lumed dots, so that you can orient yourself, but what can you do? Anyways, this pretty much completes the review, so now we'll move on to the tutorial. Now before you do any of the resets or setting up or anything on the watch, you should make sure that there is enough power in the battery. Now this watch does have a power reserve indicator, meaning that if you press this lower button, this subdial here is going to show you to one of 4 levels of battery. However, if the hands are messed up, this is not going to be accurate. So my advice is that when you get the watch, just leave it facing outside on the windowsill for at least a couple of hours so it can get enough power so you can start playing with it. And the first thing that I'm going to show you is the all reset. Now the all reset is something that you will probably never have to do. However, if you notice that the watch is acting weird and it's not working properly, the all reset is probably going to solve the issue in 99% of cases. So this is why I have to show it to you. Now please note that when you do the all reset, no matter what the hands are showing and what the date disc is saying, the watch is going to assume it's January 1st at midnight. So you will have to change the reference position of the hands right after that. So to do the all reset, you pull the crown to the second position and press these 2 buttons for 4 seconds. Now when you press them, the watch is not going to indicate that it did the all reset, so you're just going to have to assume that it did it. And there. And now you close the crown. And you will notice that the all reset was done because, as you can see, this subdial here is showing somewhere that it shouldn't. It should point at 12, but no, it's showing somewhere in between. Anyways, now that you've reset the watch, the hands are all messed up and the disc is messed up. The date disc is messed up. So the next thing that you have to do is the hand position checking and correction. This is also something that you can do if you notice that the hands of the watch are not pointing where they should. So you can do this without the all reset and just fix the watch. Now to check the position of the hands, you press the upper button for more than 10 seconds while the crown is in the closed position. That will initiate the watch to move the hands to their reference position. However, if that position is incorrect, you have to correct the watch. And now we'll do it, and of course we're going to have the incorrect position because we just did the all reset. However, if your watch, after you initiate this, if your watch starts spinning the hands and date disc and everything, and it puts all the hands at 12, and the date disc is stuck between 31st and 1st, then everything is okay. However, on our watch we know it's not, so to change anything, you just pull the crown to the second click, and now you can change things by turning the crown. And as you can see, now we're changing this little subdial. So you can go upwards, you can go forwards or backwards, And you can also spin the crown, and then it's going to move really fast. So let's just put it at 12. Now we set this up. Now to change different things that you set up, you press the upper button. So when we press the upper button, the next thing that we're going to change is this subdial here, and it's directly connected to the date. So as you can see, you can move it in small increments, forwards or backwards, but since you want the date to be between 31st and 1st, you have to spin the crown really fast, because I think 4 revolutions of this will change the date by 1. So you let it go one more time, and now you stop it. Now it should be a bit. Now you put it to 60, because now it's between 31st and 1st. And this is how it should look. Now pressing this moves on. So the next thing that we can set up is the hour, minute, and 24-hour hand, and they're directly connected. So again, we can move backwards or forwards, and you can move fast or slow. So let's move fast until we get it to the midnight. And like I said, they're directly connected to the 24-hour hand, so you have to make sure that it's pointing to 12 as well. I mean to 24. And there. Now just let's align it a bit more. And there. And this is how the watch should look when everything is okay. If you missed some hands or you want to realign them, you just press the upper button and the watch is going to toggle between what you set up. Now we forgot the seconds hand, but it was okay, so it doesn't matter. So like I said, pressing this is just going to toggle between different things that you set up. And when it moves to this subdial, the hands, a minute, hour, and 24-hour hand are just going to move away so that you can set up this upper subdial correctly. And once, like I said, you set up everything, you just close the crown and press this button. And now the watch is going to resume operation. And like I said, because we reset it a couple of minutes ago, it still thinks that it's January 1st at 12:04. But now, since the hands are now aligned correctly, it's showing the correct time. I mean, the time that it thinks it is. Now, the last thing that we have to do is set up the time and date on this watch. Now, this has 3 options. You have the automatic setup, where it's gonna catch the signal in the night. Then you have the manual on-demand reception of the signal, and you have the manual time setting, where you tell it what the time is and the date and everything. But before you use any of those methods, you have to tell the watch what time zone you're in, and you do it just like I explained in the review. So you pull the crown to the first click, and the watch is set up initially for the London time, and now you just move to the time zone that you want. In my case, it's Paris, and you close the crown. Now, once you've set to the watch what time zone you're in, if you leave it overnight, it's gonna connect to the German tower, and in the morning everything's gonna be okay. Again, you can do the on-demand reception by pressing and holding the lower button for a couple of seconds, and then this subdial here is gonna jump to this RX, as you can see, meaning that it's gonna initiate the reception. So press and hold. And there, and the watch just initiated a reception. And now this can take up to half an hour with this model. So once it completes, the watch is going to resume operation, and then I'll just cancel it. And once it resumes operation, you just have to check whether the signal was whether the sync was successful or not by pressing the lower button. So if you press the lower button, this hand can show either no, meaning that it wasn't successful, or okay, that it was successful. In our case, it was not, because we just stopped it. Okay. And the third way of setting up the time is the manual time setting. Now, before you manually set up the time, you want to also set up the DST. So you selected the time zone, but you also want to change the DST setting. So by pulling the crown to the first click, where you select the time zone, this hand here is going to show you what the DST, or daylight savings time, is. So currently it's at off. And you toggle it on or off with the upper button, because it's the upper subdial. So as you can see, by turning it on, the watch is going to change the time by 1 hour. And you can also turn it off, again, by pressing this button. Now, since this watch is atomic, it also gets its DST data automatically over the tower. And this is indicated by the lower subdial. So if this little hand is pointing at 12 like this, that means that the automatic DST reception is on. However, if you live outside of the coverage, you can turn this thing off by pressing the lower button, because this is a lower subdial. So press and hold, and the little hand just moved to 6 o'clock. meaning that now the automatic DST setting is turned off, so it's not going to ask the data of the DST, or it's going to ignore it. So this is also okay if, let's say, you live in the area where you have the signal, but your time zone doesn't use DST. So you don't want the watch to mess up every night when the DST is on. You just turn it off like this. And to turn it back on, you also press and hold like this. And that's it. Now to manually set up the time on this watch, you pull the watch to the first click, pull the crown to the first click, and press the upper button for 2 seconds. And once the second hand spins like this, now you pull the crown to the second click. There. And now the watch just showed you that the time is what you're going to be setting up first, because it moved the hands like this. And now you can move in 1 minute increments, backwards or forwards. And like I said, these hands are connected to the 24-hour indicator, so you have to make sure to set up the AM and PM correctly. And now you can also spin the crown really fast, which will make the hands move a lot faster. So let's say we've set it up like this. So you set up the time. Now to set up anything else, you toggle with the upper button. So pressing the upper button, this little hand just moved to indicate that we're going to be setting up the date. Because like I said, this hand is directly connected to the date, and you have to do 4 rotations of this to do 1 date. But with this, you just spin it by 1, and it's going to move by 1 date, as you can see. If you spin it real fast, it's going to start moving over dates, and it's going to keep moving until you stop it by turning the other way. So as you can see, 3rd, 4th, and now you stop it by just turning the crown in the other direction. And there. So now you've set up the time, you've set up the date. Now pressing this button again, it asks you the day of the week. As you can see, here you have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You can go both directions. So let's just set it up for, I don't know, Friday. And pressing the upper button again, now it asks you for the month and leap year data. And just like on all other Citizen watches with perpetual calendars, the hour markers represent the months of the year. So 1 is January, 2 is February, 3 is March, and all the way to 12, which is December. And also the leap years are represented by full hour markers, and then years after leap year are minute markers after full hour marker. So like this, the watch is showing that it's January of a leap year. If you want to set it up for, I don't know, January 2017, you're going to move by 1 minute marker, because now it's January of leap year plus 1 year. So 2017. This is January 2018. This is January 2019, because it's 3 minute markers away from a full hour marker. Since now it's September of 2017, you want to put it to the 9 o'clock because it's the 9th month of the year, but 2017 is 1 year after leap year, so we're going to set it up here to the first minute marker after 9 o'clock. And as you can see, the watch goes to the full hour marker, and now it's not going to go to the 4th from, let's say, December leap year plus 1 plus 2 plus 3. There is no leap year plus 4 because it's again a leap year. This is why the watch skips this 4th marker. Just observe. There, and goes to the 3rd right away. So 2, 1, full, and it skips the 4th and goes to the 3, 2, 1, 0, 3, 2, 1, 0, and we're going to go all the way to September of 2017. And now press the upper button again to move back to the time, because now, since you spent some time setting up everything, the minutes have probably moved away. So now you set up the minutes that are correct, wait for the reference clock to hit 0, and just close the crown. And that's it. The watch just initiated, and it's going to pick up from here. And now, in the night, it's going to catch the signal and keep being accurate until the rest of your life. Now, to use the chrono function, like I said, you just press the upper button for the first time to prep the chrono, and then you just start it. Now, this here is going to show you tenths of seconds. This is going to count the seconds, and this is a minute counter, and it's a 60-minute chronograph. And also the watch features a tachymeter scale, which is something that you can use to calculate your speed between mile markers or kilometer markers. So if you have mile markers on the highway and you start a chronograph when you pass 1 mile marker, and when you pass the other, you stop the chrono, this here is going to indicate what speed you were traveling between these two mile markers. So this is 135, let's say, miles per hour. Also, if markers are in kilometers, it's going to be in kilometers per hour. and you can reset the chrono by pressing the lower button. Now the chrono is going to stay prepped like this for 3 minutes. So in the next 3 minutes, when you press the start button, it's just going to start the chrono. However, if you don't want to use the chrono again, you can just leave it like this, and after 3 minutes, the watch is going to go back into regular timekeeping, or you can just press this button and it's going to resume normal operation. Now this watch can also be used as a world time watch, but it doesn't have a separate time zone, but you just keep changing your home time zone. But since it's very simple, it really can be used as a traveler's watch. So you just pull the crown to the first click, like I showed in the review. You select the desired time zone and you press the crown in, and the watch is going to set up for that time. So it really can be, like I said, used for travel, although you cannot keep track of your home time. Anyways, this pretty much completes the review and the tutorial. Thank you for watching, and if you liked it, please like and subscribe, and until the next video, bye.